Jerry was one of the first ones on. He joined by 12:30. He was on, so maybe he stepped away.
Well, we'll wait another 2 or 3 minutes. We've got to find Ron.
Yep, we do. One of our board members is missing.
One of our keyboard members. So we are recording, I understand. Is that right, David?
Correct. I went ahead and started it because I'm afraid I'll forget later on. So
So I'm gonna have to watch my language
Yeah.
and be careful what I say.
because it will be recorded forever. That's right.
And Roger, I spoke to Alan White. He's in a meeting and won't be able to join us from Kentucky.
Oh, we'll miss Alan. He was very instrumental last year in the meeting.
Mhm.
And is he doing well?
Oh, yes.
Good.
Can't find Ronnie Sloth wandering in the wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder where he is.
Okay, I need a few more introductions. Who's Bob O?
Bob Olson,
Yeah.
just joined. I come down from Joseph Allen Taylor and Mary Lake.
Mhm.
Good to have you here, Bob.
Thank you.
Where do you live?
In Cache Valley, Utah.
Good. Very good. It's good to have you here. Were you on last year?
I was on once before. I'm not sure if I missed one, but I was on once before.
Okay, good. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
My sister's
Who is Holly
joining.
Water? Is it Holly Walter or Holy Water?
Yes, it's Holly and Walter. Walter is my husband. And I'm joining
Okay.
you from Alberta in Canada.
Wow. Wow.
Oh,
That's
This is my first time on here. I'm excited to be here. Super excited.
so.
It's our first time too, as I said, and I don't know what your protocol is, or if you're going to be asking people to do this later, but I'd personally be curious if everybody wrote where they're living in the chat, just to see where everybody's from. That would be fun. But I'll let you, whoever's in charge, order that if they want to.
well, that's what we normally do at the end, and we're kind of stalling time here, waiting for Ron to come. That at the end, we'll have a lot of time to introduce ourselves and take a group picture, I hope. But yeah, but this is kind of a casual time right now.
Yeah, I'm excited just to hear.
Like,
I was just gonna say, I'm excited just to hear where everybody, who we're connected to, you know, as far as who we're the descendants of. Obviously, we all have somebody in common, but it'd be interesting to see where our lines come from.
We'll have a list of everybody who was there, who was signed up, and we'll also, the session is being recorded so that it could be used, some of the material for training and other family use later on too. Where is Ron?
That's you, okay?
oh, so look.
Anything you say, though, people will be able to hear you.
Follow up to Waldo.
Okay.
If you do want to, I'll repeat this a little bit later on the housekeeping stuff. But if you are newer to Zoom, at the bottom of your screen, there's a little chat button. You can click that, and then you can type a message. You can start off by saying, introducing yourself, where you live, or what your ancestry is through the Joseph Taylor line, or whatever you'd like to do. There will be other chances later on, as was mentioned at the very end, where we can have a little meet and greet also.
Well, I sent you one, Cheryl.
I think we wanted to mention about the having how you raise your hand. You were
Yeah,
gonna-
we'll get to that too. I want to make sure that we'll go through all of that.
Okay.
Might just have to start without Ron, guys, and come back to him or something. if that's even possible.
So with that, you just clicked on the link that I sent you. I just sent you. Hello. Are you there?
Who's there?
Are they talking? Who's he talking
Who's talking?
That's
I am-
Gordon. He's either trying to talk to his sister or Ron.
He's
Probably
on
his
the
sister.
phone. I don't know if it's
I'll-
Ron.
I'll
who's
mute
talking.
Gordon.
There's Shanann.
Oh, there he's back. Unmute yourself now, Gordon.
Great. Well. Okay. Well, we maybe ought to get started. I have no idea where Ron is.
I agree. All right. Let me get this going.
Okay, Roger, take it over.
Hey, thank you. You know, I'm Roger Taylor Russell. I'm really excited to welcome everybody here. I think we have over 50 people registered from 13 or 14 states, including Canada, and now it looks like England. Really welcome, glad to have you here from Joseph Taylor family. And we have lots of things to cover. We need to do some housekeeping first. And David, I think you need to check and make sure what's going on. We may have already done that, but David, why don't you take it away and let's go from there.
Great, thank you. Yeah, welcome this afternoon. Before we get started in earnest now, I want to just cover a few housekeeping items. So we ask that everyone mute their microphones for now during the presentations, so we're not interrupted. And later on, we'll have a comment period. And then at the end, we'll have our open forum or our virtual meet and greet, where we'll love to have you unmute yourself and we'll chat and get to know each other a little bit better. And I'll review how to unmute at that time if you're unfamiliar with Zoom. And let's see, if you're having trouble with the sound or video quality, you might consider turning off your video, which can be done near the bottom left. You can just click your little video camera there. But if you've got a good connection and if you're so inclined, we'd love to have your video camera on so we can see you. We are recording this reunion, and we'll make it available along with any other handouts that there may be on the website at taylораssociation.org. And let's see what else. Oh, we encourage you to use the chat feature throughout the reunion. So you can send a message, whether that's a question or a comment or encouragement, or type in where you're from, whatever you would like there. It's family friendly. This is a family friendly video chat, right? So Nancy Gregory will be monitoring those messages. And if we don't get to your comment, rest assured that they will all be read, and if necessary, we'll respond to you. So let's see, the chat, if you're again at the bottom of your screen, if you just kind of move your mouse to the bottom of your screen, you'll see a chat button with a little talk balloon. You can just click on that, and then it will open up a little message box there. You can follow the other people's comments. Then you just, in the bottom of that, you type your message and then just hit the enter key, and it will send your message off to everybody. So I think that covers our housekeeping. So back to you, Roger.
Thank you, David. You talk about this being recorded. I just twice this week listened on YouTube to our reunion from last year. It was excellent. I really enjoyed watching it again. So if you haven't watched it, watch last year's family reunion. It's amazing with this technology to be able to do this. In case you think I look different than I did last year, I do look different. I'm up here in the frozen north in the Arctic Circle. Where's my coat? Normally I have this thing on. My Arctic parka. It's been like a minus 45 degrees up here. So I retired from my job as a dentist, and I got roped into coming up here to teach math to the indigenous kids. So I'm up above the Arctic Circle, and I'm thrilled to be here. And I'm thrilled to be part of the Taylor Family Association, currently as president. You know, the Taylor family well, I've got written down here, I'm proud to be a Taylor. The Taylors are a great American family. And they date back, I guess it was Joseph Taylor left in what, 1808. I've got down here 1808. He moved from North Carolina to Kentucky. He loaded all his kids up into wagons, traveled 600 miles to get up to Kentucky. I can't imagine. I know how hard it is to take a family road trip in the station wagon in the old days. But he had something like 12 kids and all their luggage and baggage, and they traveled 600 miles from North Carolina up to Kentucky. And we're grateful for what he did. And we have, again, a tremendous family heritage. I'm anxious to meet all of you people and see what part of that heritage you come from. I come from William Taylor, who was a son of Joseph Taylor. William Taylor had a son named Pleasant Green Taylor. My mom was a granddaughter. I'm a great grandson of Pleasant Green Taylor. So I take pride in that, and I'm very happy to be there. So again, I'm grateful to be here. Proud to keep this heritage going and strong. Grateful for the staff that we have. And those of you that don't know, the Taylor Family Association has tremendous staff. There's a group of what, 10 or 8 to 10 people that work many, many hours, gathering and sharing and working together to put this family organization together. So those of you that are new to the organization, we'd love to have any help we can have from you. We love all the support we can get. So at the end of the meeting, raise your hand if you'd like to volunteer to help a little bit, even if it's just cleaning off tables. We'll take any help we can get from you. So when we're passing out the cookies and donuts, we'll talk about that. I think that's the introduction. We're going to introduce the staff members, I think, at this time. Gordon, is that right? Here's the brief history of the family.
Yeah, did you say everything you wanted to say about the Taylor? I think you did. And I apologize for not advancing the slides.
Well, I kind of wandered through it, but I think everybody can see this. And I can talk about the Taylors for a long time, David. If you want to give me the mic, I'll take it and run with it. But I think there's a lot of other people that have things to say too.
All right,
we nodded his head.
We will move on then.
Very good, thank you. Who do we move to first?
So if you just briefly introduce the staff, and then we'll go through the individual reports.
Our membership chairman is Mike Deal, and we have Mike, a recording from Mike. Mike is away on a business trip right now, followed by our finance chairman, Reed Brown, and we'll hear from him. Reed has done a tremendous job. Our database man, Ron Taylor, puts in thousands of hours, and he does amazing work with our database. And then our website, David Taylor, and we've heard from David a little bit. We appreciate David a lot. Taylor Times, written by Eileen Phelps. I could spend a lot of time talking about you, Eileen, and the work that you've done and what you're doing. And there are not enough thanks to go around for the work that you have done and continue to do. We've got some research projects in the organization, Ancestry. Mark Taylor taking over the Ancestry. And then Descendancy, Gordon Taylor. Before I introduce Nancy Gregory, let me just mention this Ancestry of Mark Taylor. I'm up here in the Arctic, and I live in a little cabin I don't have TV. I don't have internet. I have to come here to school to do that. I read the scriptures a lot. I'm amazed in the Bible and in the Book of Mormon, how much it talks about the importance of preserving our family ancestry, our family genealogy. And there's a great amount we could just discuss on the importance of ancestry. So grateful for all the work that everybody does in that regard. And then back down to the secretary, our DNA research, Nancy Gregory does amazing work. She will talk about the DNA research and we'll go from there. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Roger.
Michael Deal.
Need to hear him. Sound.
Thank
I
you.
guess we need to hear your sound.
Yep, I hear you. Hang on.
Good afternoon, Taylor Cousins. I'm Mike Deal.
You got it now?
I assist the association with all
Yes.
things membership. And firstly, I'd like to apologize that I'm not able to be here live and in person. Currently, I'm on my way to Washington, D.C. for work. And so I put this brief video clip together to express a few things that I'd like to share about our membership. First, all of you who are on the call with us today on this reunion who are members, thank you for your membership dues and your support of the association. For all of you who are not yet members, of course, there's no requirement that you be so, but we'd love to have you join us. There are a great number of reasons why the association really may be of value to you. Let me just express a couple of those, if I may. One, it's certainly a repository of a lot of information. You'll hear a little bit today about the great database that we maintain as an association that connects all relatives of our family, our Taylor family line together. Ron will have to share how many names are in that database, but it's very large, and chances are you'll find your name and others associated with your family in the database, and I think you'll find that there's a great wealth of information there that you may not already have, and we'd love to be able to share that with you. Also, we do produce an edition of the Taylor Times 3 and 4 times a year. There are death notices and birth notices and a huge wealth of information on the Taylor family and associated lines, our history, the stories that we've shared, and in many cases, we find corrections to family lore that may make great stories but may not always be accurate. And that's part of the association as well. We'd love to make sure that what we're sharing, what we tell, are accurate stories of our family history. We also, of course, pull together our meetings and our reunions. You'll find a great wealth of information and advice during those meetings on how better to research, what things to look for, where you might go for specific information. And so I hope that you would actually find some great value to being a member of the association. You can reach us on our website, taylorassociation.org. You can reach me at themikedeal@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you if you've got questions about our membership. We look forward to having you join. And those that, again, are already members, we look forward to a long relationship with each of you as we continue to gather and research our Taylor family history. Have a good reunion today. I look forward to seeing you in the future. Thank you.
Okay, Reed.
I'm
You're
here.
on.
I'm right here.
Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to discuss our financial report. As it's shown here, I'm the treasurer. Receive deposits or membership dues by 2 means. A direct mail to Mike Deal, the other through PayPal. I have the financial statement in front of me. Last year, we took in $2,222 in dues. Our expenses last year were $180. of which 150 went for publication of our, I guess, our last newsletter in print. Is that right?
Mhm.
Okay. That was used to be one of our most expensive expenses during the year. Also, we had to register with the state of the Utah, and it's somewhat complicated as we make changes and introduce. And last year we spent $30 in the spending for the state of Utah. So currently we have at the end of the December 2021, $18,094 in Zion's bank account. Are there any questions as far as this financial statement is concerned?
I don't think so.
Okay, well.
Reed, I think,
Everybody. Go ahead.
Reed, I think you've made it clear, which is good, that nobody in the organization receives any money for the services and the work that everybody does. Hopefully that money will be spent for research and for other things. But Reed, the work that you've done has been wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's been a real privilege to be a part of this association. As I mentioned too in our earlier meeting today, because of age and some infirmities I'm suffering, I think that we need to seriously look for someone to take over these responsibilities, and I'll be happy to work with them.
Thank you, Reed. Well, Ron, I guess it's your turn.
Had to unmute my microphone first. I wanted to talk about the database that we do keep. We store the information in a Microsoft Access database, which is managed by Legacy Family Tree software. And Legacy is one of the premier programs that can be run on a personal computer. We find that Legacy provides a lot of the tools that are necessary for good collaboration between members. We have developed what we call a slice model. If you consider the entire database as a big pie, we try to make a slice for each separate branch of the family so that they can maintain their own data and keep it updated in the big pie. So that makes it, the software from Legacy makes it very easy for us to take a slice out, send it, and then when it comes back in, we easily merge it back into the main database. And then everybody benefits from the little piece that everybody else does. So that's how the slicer system works. Somebody mentioned how many people are in the database. Right now we have descendants of Joseph Taylor and Nancy. We have 110,980. And the total database right now is about 316,000. We do track a lot of peripheral lines because they are intermarried with the Taylor family in various places, especially in Tennessee and Kentucky and Utah. And so it's important for us to track some of those peripheral lines. We also track all of the other Taylor families that we've been asked about so that we can give answers to which Taylor clan people might belong to. Not all Taylors are the same family. And you're going to find out very soon that not all books contain true information. So it's very important to have a lot of the researchers that we're working with certify which data is correct and which is not. Let's see now. I would be open to any questions that people might have about their family as it relates to the data. And I'd be glad to help. Gordon has spearheaded trying to get slices of the pie out to various family branches and try to get them involved in updating the data and keeping it up to date.
Thank you, David. We'll look forward to having you help us later on in some of the discussions.
Right.
Great, thank you,
Hey,
Ron.
David,
Yes.
Go
Yes,
ahead.
thank you.
you're on.
Yep, I got that. I was a little slow on the uptake, but got it. So yeah, my name is David Taylor, and I've been helping with the website for the last couple of years. About a year and a half ago, we moved it to WordPress, which makes it easier to maintain, easier to train people. If you have any WordPress experience, maybe you've written your own blog or something, or even if you don't, we would love to have a little bit of assistance maintaining that and have your involvement. You'll catch a common theme here. So excited to have so many of you here joining us and showing interest in your family heritage, our shared family heritage. And the only way the association can function is through the volunteers that we have. So keep that in mind, consider helping us out. Particularly, I still have children at home and I'm very busy with work and church responsibilities. So can't always do everything I'd like to do with the website. So love to be able to have some people help out with that. And I promise you don't need any computer programming skills in order to do that. All right, let's pass the baton to Eileen. And you are on mute still.
There you go.
All right.
Go ahead.
You're on, Eileen.
All right. I want to point out that I'm going to be 87 this summer and I'm running out of time. So I have a little bucket list of things I want to do for the Taylors, but I am going to have to resign at the end of this year as editor. I have completed 97 issues of the Taylor Times, and I'm going to do 3 more this year, so that'll be an even 100. That's a good quitting point. The thing about it is that what I want to do next is I want to make sure that any useful information that's in those 97 issues is up on the website where anyone that can see it. We started it last year and I could not keep it going because of living in Northern California, rural Northern California last year. We were evacuated 3 times, twice for fires and once for a snow bomb. And after the Taylor reunion last year, I think that I had internet about half the time. And there was not enough bandwidth to do any research online or upload, or for that matter, continue to make issues of the Taylor Times. And I had no assistant editor who could do that. So that's my plea. Please think about becoming a replacement editor of the Taylor Times. And I'm going to pester everybody this year, but I will keep you up to date as I add things. I do have internet where I am now in New Mexico, and I am relearning what little I know about WordPress. So I'm working on that. And I think that takes care of what I have to say. Anyway, we'll let you know in the newsletter.
Thank you. Thank you. Mark, you're on.
Hi, my name's Mark Taylor. I'm a descendant of Pleasant Green Taylor and William Warren Taylor, both sons of William Sr. and the two Josephs. And I live in St. George, Utah. I just got back from some time in England, as was previously mentioned by our attendee, Dennis, who's there now. And I've been asked now to take on the role of working on research on our ancestry. My expectation of what I would like to accomplish in the next several years is to fully inventory the research that's been done on our roots back from before the two Josephs, and make sure that that's available on the website. I'm sure that in accomplishing this task, I'll spend a lot of time talking with Eileen in the next year. Another thing I want to do is develop expertise in the use of DNA. I feel like I've got my toes well into the water, but that's about as far as I feel like I am. And once I get that expertise developed a little better, I'm starting to have some rough ideas of some things we ought to do. And those kind of things will all be reported in the Taylor Times as we figure out what needs to happen next. And I would like to organize other people to be involved in this work. And so at the end, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the DNA later. And at that point, I've got my email address where you can send me a note if you're interested in getting involved in that. That's about all I have for now. Gordon, you're up.
Yes. Well,
Hey, Gordon,
yes.
Gordon, let me pause here for a minute. We've got several people calling me. They can't seem to get on. Blaine Taylor needs another welcome, and he'll forward it on to his sister, David, if you can send it to Blaine.
We'll have Nancy do that, okay?
Yeah, I don't
And then
have their
also-
email addresses. Let me just say, I did add, this is not what we did last year, but because of that, I did add on the 2022 reunion on the Taylor family page, I have the link there. So let me put that in the chat, and then you can share that page with anybody. And I can also
Nancy,
put the
can you
link
do that, Nancy?
itself. I'll also
Yes.
put the link if you want to just send that out to anybody directly without having to go to a page. So that didn't work exactly the way I wanted it to because they copied from, but anyway, that'll work. That'll get you there.
I just
We've got
I just sent an email to Blaine with the link.
very good. Ron Taylor, the Durfee line. He's trying to get in. He can't get into it.
I'm
Ron
not
Taylor.
quite sure. I'll try to find that one. The link definitely shows up in the chat. So anybody that looks at the chat should be able to get the link.
If you
Okay.
look, I put the link up there that I used to get in. I was not able to get in either with the Eventbrite link. And so I went out to a different area to get the link, and I get that link up there that I put up there under GT, and that's the link that I use to get into the Zoom. Is you have to bring up your Zoom client first, and then enter in this link. That's the 55901154225, and that's what you need to email out to somebody else who's actually contacting you. That's the link that got me in.
Yes, that's correct.
Got that, Nancy?
But you don't, yeah, you should just be able to click on the link for your email, and it should open your Zoom client as well. But this is what
Okay.
happens when your membership clerk or membership vice president leaves out of town the day before the reunion.
All right, we'll have to apologize to some people, won't we?
Luckily,
All
it'll be
right.
recorded.
Okay. Well, I'm Gordon Taylor, and I'm in charge of descendancy research. Ron and I have looked back, and we very concerned about a couple of things with regard to descendancy. We've documented a lot of the past, several generations back, but we're losing limbs and branches of the current family. And with those losses, we lose connectivity, collaboration, and most of all, the foundation and identity that people need in this day and time. Anyway, so I've been involved in collaborating ideas that can help us to more fully do that. And we'll spend some time later on today talking about some of those thoughts. Ron mentioned the slices. We try and make the slice about no bigger than 300 for you to manage your cousins, people who you really know. The other thing that Ron didn't mention, which has been a concern when the descendancy in modern days, is privacy. Our file is secure and the file doesn't see the light of day, and you can only get information based on particular projects that you're working on with, and people who are slicers sign their life away with regard to maintaining the information which we provide to them in a private nature. By the way, that privacy document which we use was endorsed by the lawyers of Family Search. So very excited about new things that are coming on, developing in the world of collaboration. And over the next 6 months, I think we'll see additional ideas, but we have some, and we're going to talk about more later on today. Over to you, Nancy.
Okay, I'm the secretary. For several years, I took notes for the TFA meetings that we have. We meet every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. and finally just volunteered to be officially the secretary. My job is to build the agenda for each meeting, run the agenda, and keep notes of the meetings to be able to give back to the board members so that they can keep track of what we're doing.
Okay, so let's move on.
Not your DNA, what you're doing with the DNA too, though.
That's later. We'll get to that.
So Roger, do you want to talk about our first presentation here?
Yeah, we had the first presentation from Sherry and Don Frankie. They have done a marvelous work, years and years of research, printing up 2 volumes of the Joseph Taylor Jr. family, 3 volumes. And we've got them on here today to talk about the research and what they have done. And Don, Sherry, so glad to have you join us.
And Nancy did that.
All righty.
So are we ready to go ahead with the pre-recorded video?
Yes, let's do it.
Yes.
Great.
I'm here with Donna Sherry Frankie, descendant.
And let's do it.
Of William Taylor and Elizabeth Patrick. Sherry and Don researched, wrote, and published the family history of the Joseph Taylor Jr. and Sarah Best books that I show you here. Volumes 1, 2, and 3. We're very interested in the process of writing these extensive books. We have a set of questions we'd like to know about. And here's the first question. What gave you the impetus to write these books?
Very frankly, the impetus for writing these books was the 1993 Taylor Family Association reunion.
That was held back in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
And how did you find all the information that you were looking for?
A lot of research.
I bet that's a lot. There was a lot in there. Those are huge books. At one point, did you realize what a huge undertaking this was going to be?
From the beginning, but all along the way.
Yeah, I guess we really need to go back to that reunion and what happened. Sherry began researching Taylor family in depth back in 1990. And in the course of that research, she reached out and contacted some other family members through, she posted a query And she heard back from some of them, including a Jane Smith in Elgin, Illinois, who put her in contact with a bunch of other folks. And it was at that point in time that she began thinking about this 1993 reunion. What triggered that thought was that there was a reunion back in 1909 in Bowling Green, Richardsville, Kentucky. And pictures of that reunion are floating around in the family. We have them.
I have one. And my great grandfather attended Levi James Taylor.
So through this group and others that joined in, including Brian Taylor and from here from Ogden and other, the Taylor family all over. The reunion was established for September of 1993. Sherry wanted to take something back to have a talking point for everybody and to sort of bring the family together. So she put together what might be called the origins of the 3-volume work.
It was a little gold book.
Yeah, it was her first endeavor on a computer. Pictures were put in, we pasted them in and typed captions and pasted it underneath them, and then just made copies of that. And it was a plastic bound a binder kind of thing. And we took back, we don't even remember how many of those we had. We can't even find our original copy of that.
We've been looking
Been all over
this
for it.
morning for it. It's somewhere in this house.
Yeah. So we found so many people to talk to, so much information that was back there. It was such a neat experience that when Sherry came back, she says, you know what? That first volume wasn't adequate. She says, we got to do something more. She says, I want to redo it. And that's where these 3 volumes came from. Started working on the first, well, right?
The red
It was going to be 1 volume, just better. But with all the information we had, we found out very quickly that it's going to take at least 2.
Wow.
And as we
That
continued
was the
on,
brown one.
yeah.
Volume 2.
And as we started into that one, we realized that she had so much on just one family, which was the William Taylor portion of that we had to move that separately. It says it's going to be a 3 volume. So it just kind of grew.
Wow.
That's where we were. So
It was a lot of work.
Yes, it was.
well, if you look at the copyright dates on this, when we released these volumes, the first volume came out in 2003. So it took 10 years to go from the gold, that first volume we did and the reunion to come out with the first volume of the new book that Sherry was writing. The second volume came out in 2005, which is 2 years later. And the third volume came out in 2016, which is 13 years after the second volume.
Took a long time to get that.
Yes. So big undertaking. Sherry did all the writing. She typed every word in that book.
Wow.
We added a lot of pictures that we gathered. We had, where did we get the information? A lot of it was internet, wasn't it?
And we also traveled around a lot
Yes.
to cemeteries and got information that way. We even went up into Montana, Idaho, southern Utah,
Over Wyoming.
Wyoming, to cemeteries and such.
Wow.
Big family project.
No kidding. Well, what advice would you give to someone who would like to do their own family history?
What advice would you give?
Hang in there.
We thought about it. I thought about it and started scratching down a few thoughts on what advice I would give. Really, I think do one. begin.
Jump in.
Yeah, we had no idea what this thing was going to be
No.
when Sherry started.
We didn't know where we were headed.
I think most of us are intimidated with the idea of writing something that people are going to read and criticize. But I think that the stories and the histories and the information is so important for family and for generations to come.
We have met so many wonderful people over the years.
I think start. Don't worry about what people think. You know people. You know people that aren't here now.
Many are gone.
What better way to, I think, honor those folks than to remember them in some kind of a history that will pass on to future generations. But that's kind of part of the motivation that we had.
I totally agree.
I would start small. I wouldn't. If we had known that we were going to end up with 3 volumes, I don't think we'd have done this.
Yeah.
Plus it cost a lot.
Yeah, it's expensive to do books the size of these particular volumes. This is volume one.
Uh-huh.
This is with the index. By the way, we index these books. There's 760 pages. in that
John
book.
did that.
Oh, you did the indexing.
I did the
He did.
indexing and I put the pictures in.
What program did you use to do that?
Sherry wrote the entire book using WordPerfect. That's just a standard office kind of program for what do we call it? At any rate,
Processing. I used WordPerfect.
it's a commercial tool. We like it a lot, and we've used different versions. We had a very early version for volume 1, and for volume 2, we used the version 16 for volume 3. But it's so easy to work with. But that's what we wrote the whole thing in. But we went to the printers with a PDF version, so that and that was easy to do. We just made that conversion. It's built into the software,
Right.
and they could use that, and they were able to print books from that.
Nice. I like
Yeah.
that.
There are all kinds of software that's out there. Some of them very expensive. Some of I guess it's really set up for doing this kind of thing, writing books and whatever. But we just did it with standard Office software.
Uh-huh. That works great.
It does, really does. What else could we say here?
I have a large list of libraries in the United States where these books are.
Oh, nice.
We put-
Even one in Calgary, Canada.
Yeah, for most people, we put 3 volumes of all 3 volumes in the Western Kentucky University Library. And the reason we did that is that's really the home of the Taylors after they had moved from North Carolina to Kentucky,
Right.
that region. And we visited that library, and there was a lady back there by the name of Nora Young Ferguson, who did a lot of work on the Taylor family. And she was not even a Taylor, but she did a lot of research. And when she died, she left all of her files with the Western Kentucky University. It's in their library there. So we just added to their collection that we have placed copies of these books in that library.
Good.
We
Yeah.
wish we had more volume 1s. We have one
Yeah.
left.
Now there are, all 3 of these volumes are in the family search library in Salt Lake City.
Uh-huh.
Volume 1 has been digitized. Volume 2 is only on film there. And we don't know what they've done with volume 3. And I'm in the process of trying to work with the library to get at least volume 1, which is now out of print and we don't have any more copies. Have that digital version available on the library in the catalog.
Right.
But that's our goal. Volume 2, we still have 40 copies of that available, but it is on film back in the library.
How many volume threes do?
Volume 3, we have about 90.
Wow. Good. Hopefully
then-
people in the reunion will know that and contact you to want to buy some.
Yeah, we'd like to move them all. We'd like to find homes for everything. Get the space back. I was just going over my list. What other advice would I give? Focus. You're going to write a history. Focus on what you're going to write on. Focus on who you're going to zero in on, and do your research, and then just follow your heart.
I sort of felt like it was my mission here on earth to do this.
You did well.
Thank you.
I think the nice thing about doing the smaller books and articles and stories are that one of the things you can do is you can upload those to Family Search and attach them to the name of the person
Right.
who you've written about or the family, and it's available to everybody. When you get to a book, you can't do that in the way you have to. You know, the book's the size we did, because the Family Search folks will not allow that size book like this to be attached.
Oh,
That's why we put them in the library, and if they digitize them, then you can get to them through the catalog.
awesome.
They are all over the country
Yeah.
and in Canada.
Good.
One other advice I would say is have fun doing it.
We did have fun.
We really did. We just the research alone became a family thing. We would take our kids and some of our grandkids. You'd be surprised how much fun they can have in a cemetery.
Yes.
They we'd give them a name and say, go find this grave, and they would often run, and they'd have a ball. We'd have picnics in cemeteries.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
You would think that's the last place you'd want to do that.
Right.
But we visited a gentleman in Montana that had written his own booklet on his family, and they were part of this Taylor family. He had a little museum. He took us through that. He drove us all over the area, took us around and showed us the historical sites.
And showed us where members of his family
Yeah.
lived.
So it can be a great experience. I would say that you'll find that if you really make that effort, it won't just be a chore. It'll be a labor of love, and it'll actually become a spiritual event for you. But above all, you got to start.
Right. Well said. Well, we've hit our limit, so we'll have to end now. But I really appreciate you joining me and telling me all of this. I have a lot to do for myself too.
All right. Well,
Nice
thank you
to
for.
meet you.
Nice to
thank
meet you too.
this,
You guys have a great day.
Okay,
Okay,
you
thank
too.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So we want to thank Sherry and Don for their forward thinking, and we'll be discussing some uses of the books later on. David Taylor visited with Reed Brown about a memorial project that he did about William Bailey Lake. And we need to talk, just brief introduction there. William was killed while on a mission in Idaho by Indians, leaving his wife, Sarah Jane Marlar, with 4 children. Pleasant Green Taylor was asked to marry her and raise the children, which he did. And these children now have become a part of the Taylor legacy through multiple marriages. While William was not a part of our direct line, the children have had direct impact on our descendants. In fact, there are over 6,800 relationships that exist in the Taylor currently in the Taylor database. So over to you. Let's visit with Reed and David.
I'm privileged to be here with Reed Brown today. Reed has served as our treasurer for many years and has contributed in many, many ways to this family association. So good to be with you today, Reed.
Well, thank you.
And today we're going to talk about an ancestor of his, William Bailey Lake Sr. So why don't you just get us started, Reed, by just tell us briefly about Bailey Lake and your relationship to him.
My mother was Oretta Chug, and she was the daughter of Ida Taylor Chug, and then Andrew was my great grandfather, and William Bailey Lake was my great grandfather. We used to go over there, and she used to clear off the gravesite and tell me a little bit about the story of Bailey Lake and put flowers on his grave. And she did this every year.
Well, thank you, Reed. I think it's remarkable that you've been so, I guess, connected to your great-great-grandfather since you were a boy through the stories of your mother and going to the cemetery. And then that after all of these years, you've been able to kind of see this dream to fruition of having a memorial so more people can know about his story. I think that's really amazing.
So moving forward many years, Byron Taylor, and I called him one day and I said, do you know where Bailey Lake was killed at? He says, yes. I says, will you take me and some of my cousins up there and show us the site? And he did that. And this site is in Auburn, Arbon, Idaho. It's about 35 miles north and west of Malad, and about 25 miles southwest of Pocatello. So he took us up there and showed us the site, and it was a site that was quite identifiable. It's called Rock Springs, and it was about 2.4 miles north of the Auburn post office. So as the story is that he was coming through that area on their way back from Salmon, Idaho, as they was missionaries up there, and they got bogged down in that swamp there in the spring with the horses, and that's where he was shot. They came back and picked his body up a few days later. They buried it in snow at the time and packed it in snow and brought it back to the Ben Lomond Cemetery in North Ogden. And at that time, I thought it'd be nice to put a little sign up. And so I come to realize that was on the reservation, the Indian reservation. So I contacted the branch president of Fort Hall in the reservation, and he went to the council and they turned us down. Mm-hmm. So I kind of left it at that. A little over a year ago, I once again was moved to go up there and see that area. So I got hold of Blaine. So we got in, drove up in Bengal. We both realized this was the place. It's very distinguishable. It's a marshy area in the valley, and there's a spring right at the side of the road, and a lot of rocks, cliffs right on the side. And so as we were standing there and talking, we decided to take a picture of ourselves. And at that moment, an old car came down the road, probably the first one we saw that day. And he stopped and he says, may I help? And then we told him why we were there. He says, you ought to go down and talk to Helen Lusk, who's the postmaster at Auburn. Mm-hmm. And we told her who it was, and she almost jumped over the counter, wanted to give us hugs. He says, we've been looking for ancestors or Bailey Lake forever. And so that became a valuable resource. And at that moment, she says, you need to go up and talk to Melinda Campbell. She's a state genealogist for this area. So we went to Melinda's place, and her husband got a beautiful, beautiful dry farm up there in a very lovely home. We visited her for about 2 hours. And she was so helpful and so excited about who we were. And I told him, I said, I have an interest. Maybe we'd like to put a monument there. And we got to get the Indians' permission. They says, well, I don't think he'll ever do that. And then Melinda says, well, why don't you talk to Helen and see if we can put it at the post office? She says, I think it'll even be better at the post office because, and so I says, well, do you think I can get permission? And long story short, who was the county road commissioner, and he arranged for us to put them a monument at that site. So we proceeded and working with Melinda and Helen and Blaine and myself and summarized that into 2 pages. And that's what I put online with a picture of the monument.
Yeah.
And it gives a brief summary, but I think very accurate. And so we met together and we identified an inscription that would be nice to put on the monument and selected a marker. So the monument is 60 inches tall, 30 inches wide, and 8 inches in depth. And
Reed, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that people can see what that monument looks like. This is someone has uploaded this to Family Search into the memories. And so there's a picture of it after it's been erected last October 2021. Is that right? October 27th, I believe.
27th, that is the correct date. Yes.
Yeah, beautiful monument.
You notice down at the bottom, it's got a QR code.
Mm-hmm.
And you can scan that, and then you'll pull up that 2-page history that we prepared for the Bailey Lake.
So that QR code will take you to a website that we'll share with everyone in this virtual family reunion.
So that's how that's come about.
You know, you and I were visiting right before we started the recording, and I thought we'd share again so some of the people on the virtual reunion here may not know exactly how the Lakes tie into the Taylor family. William Bailey Lake Sr. married Sarah Jane Marlar.
That's correct. Now, do you know the background on Sarah Jane?
No, go ahead. Share a little bit about that.
Her family owned a large plantation in Mississippi near Fort Gibson, Mississippi, right on the Mississippi River. And the missionaries come through there in about 1846, and they joined a church. And they made a decision as a family to go west with the Saints in 1850. And they went on into winter quarters, and they hooked up with the Bailey Lake wagon train and came west together. Of course, she was a beautiful 16, 17-year-old young lady. He was 19, 20.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks for that background. They made so many sacrifices. And so Bailey and Sarah Jane had 4 children together, 3 daughters and a son.
That's
all
correct.
3 daughters ended up marrying Taylors. And then after Bailey's untimely death in 1858, as you described, at Rock Springs up there and coming home from the Salmon River Mission, then his wife, his widow, married Pleasant Green Taylor.
Now, Brigham Young actually came to Pleasant Green and asked him to take her as a wife and take care of her.
That was great. And Pleasant Green, it should be noted, was also serving in the Salmon River Mission at the same time. So they were serving.
Yeah, they were very good friends. Bailey Lake and Pleasant Green were very close friends.
Yeah.
And, now, there's a couple of things I think I highlighted those in that 2-page. The personality that Bailey Lake had, and what kind of a man that's recorded in history that he was. I think that's a very special thing that we ought to perhaps underline a bit.
Yeah.
I don't have that in front of me, unfortunately. I'm down here.
Well, let me share my screen again.
Okay.
You can, highlight a few things that you're interested in here. Is that working? Nope. I gotta click the other button.
Okay, go ahead.
There we go.
Okay, yeah, I see it now. Okay, that's
maybe here, starting maybe the 3rd paragraph.
Okay, let's see, where's that? The 3rd paragraph on the 31st of March.
This Bailey displayed. Is this the kind of thing you're talking about? Or is there something else? Maybe there's other.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Yeah, Bailey displayed an abiding faith in God with a kind and obedient disposition, always helping and cheering his parents with words of comfort when they were forced to move from place to place.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Reed, for your time today. But more importantly, thanks for your interest in preserving our Taylor heritage and how, you know, Bailey Lake is certainly a big part of that. Although he himself was not a Taylor,
No, he wasn't.
We claim him as part of the family, and part of that heritage.
Well, thank you very much to both Sherry and Don Uh, And I want to thank Roger for it to this point. Keep warm in Alaska, and we'll see you back in the States later on. Now, we'd like to turn our attention to three discussions that we think will be very interesting to our members. The first one discussion is the use of DNA in making connections. And so to do that, we're going to have Mark Taylor share some information with he and Nancy about their work. Go ahead, if you would, Mark.
All right, is this showing up yet?
Yes, it certainly is.
Okay. Well, I don't know everyone who's signed on. I don't know what your background is or how involved you've been in trying to break through walls on family lines doing genealogical research. But it turns out DNA has been one of the tools used to help confirm family connections. And for us, we've had a hard time getting back to hard proof of who our immigrant Taylor is. So really the objective for using DNA for me is to be able to confidently find the first of our Taylor line to come to America and find where he was from. And I don't say he for a sexist reason, but we're pretty sure that it was a man. So I said he. So there are three kinds of DNA that are used in doing research. One is autosomal. That's DNA that's the testing that uses everything except the sex chromosomes and the mitochondria. And that particular test is commonly done by Ancestry, although there's a lot of others who are doing it too, 23andMe, probably a whole bunch of others. But this particular test has two things that it's good for, and it's what people start doing, and that's to say, where is your family from? So because of this test, I found out that I'm 17% Viking, and I like that. I think that's interesting because I had no idea. The second thing that it does is it tells us, gives us a very long list of who has DNA like our DNA. Now there's a tool that is used with Ancestry called Throughline, and in a few minutes, Nancy's going to talk about what she's been doing with that. Now the Y chromosome DNA test uses the male half of the sex chromosome. Mutations occur every couple of generations, and because of the mutations and the changes, you can track your family and come up with an analysis of who you're related to and who you're not. Mitochondrial DNA is the female side, and it's the DNA that comes out of the mitochondrion, and it's always the female. Well, virtually always the female. Apparently the male DNA that goes into the mitochondrion burns itself out because it's in the tail of the sperm. So apparently the DNA that goes to the mitochondrion with the male never survives the journey. So with my mitochondrial DNA, I've got 5 close matches. One's from Scotland, one's from France, one's from Czechoslovakia, and 2 are from unspecified Northeastern European areas. So it's helpful to know kind of where your mother's family comes from, and that might be helpful for you, but it's not very helpful in tracking down specific ancestors. And genetic distance is a common term that we use just to talk about the fact that we may have a connection, but what you've got to figure out is how close that connection is. And that the closeness or lack of closeness is genetic distance. So Nancy, do you want to talk about autosomal for a few minutes?
Autosomal. I started working with DNA in April 2016 when I had my DNA tested at Ancestry.com to help me find my unknown Italian paternal grandfather. I convinced my paternal first cousin to have his tested also, as it would help a lot for comparison. My investigation was quite successful, and I now know who he was, and I found many new cousins. DNA can be of great help in breaking down brick walls. In November 2016, I convinced my husband, Roy Gregory, who is the Taylor descendant, to have his DNA tested. His immediate results showed up with over 1,000 fourth cousins or closer. I was so jealous. Today, it has grown to be well over 40,000. Now these are just DNA, autosomal DNA matches on Ancestry, over 40,000. Since then, his brother Stephen, his daughter Angela, and his grandson Leroy Mitchell have added their DNA tests to the bunch. If you have any questions, please type it in the chat box and I'll respond to it as soon as I can. Autosomal DNA doesn't reach as far back in the ancestry as mtDNA and Y-DNA. It is most useful for connecting with closer cousins, although it can get back as far as the 5th generation with some accuracy. Please remember that the best genealogy combines genetic genealogy, which is your DNA, with regular genealogy, which is your family tree. If you have had your DNA tested, please link your test to your family tree and then try to get your family tree out as far as you can with your direct line ancestors. As I worked with those DNA matches, I like to group them into maternal, which is the Taylor, or paternal, which is the Gregory. Maternal matches are grouped as green and paternal matches are grouped as yellow. When I find a new match, even if they don't share a tree, I can go into their DNA profile, click on shared matches and see what color shows up in the shared matches. If it is yellow, that person is descended from the Gregory line. If it is green, that person is descended from the Taylor line. If both colors show up in the matches list, it means that the ancestral lines overlapped. One example, Roy's mother Ada and her sister Luella Pearl, who are the Taylors, married brothers, Delore Gregory and Leslie Gregory. That means that their descendants are double cousins, matching to both maternal and paternal lines, and they would show both colors. They would also show abnormally high amounts of shared DNA. You can develop colors for any line you want to keep track of. In my own personal DNA lists, I have several matching to grandparents and even another unknown line. To date, there are 1,621 Taylor descendants in his DNA list. There are many more I have not yet evaluated. Another trick I like to use is the through lines relationships. If you've never seen the through lines, can I share my screen, David?
You should be good to go.
Share screen. Share, okay. Okay, here's my through lines screen. And it should show you his parents and then his 4 grandparents. And it goes down to his great-great-grandparents. There's 8 of those. Great-great-grandparents. It even goes clear down to the 5th great-grandparents. And in this line, there are several. You get down far enough where you don't really know who your ancestors are. There are even some that show up as potential ancestors because there are other DNA matches that share those potential ancestors. The way that Ancestry pulls those up is through other people, other trees of other ancestry members to provide a link to Roy and his DNA matches. They list his parents, etc., of which there are 128 fifth great grandparents to keep track of. Some of these, in fact, most of these in the 5th great grandparent level may show up as potential ancestors, which means that Ancestry has some interesting family trees to match with, even if you don't. This is a great tool for helping to track the DNA shared matches. However, keep in mind that the relationships are based on what someone else's tree shows. Be discriminate in what you accept. I like to pay close attention to the sources. Sometimes it takes me an entire day to track one DNA match. Okay, Mark.
All right,
Yeah.
can you bring my screen back? David, or do I need to just redo it?
Yeah, you'll just need to reshare it once again.
How do I unshare? Oh, there you go. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to talk for just a few minutes about why DNA. Obviously, the purpose of what we're trying to do with this is figure out for certain who the ancestors of Joseph Taylor in North Carolina would be, and hopefully track them to the UK. So there was a Y-DNA project that was run in the early 2000s. The family organization identified over 50 Taylor males from as many family lines as we could find, both in Utah, North Carolina, and Virginia, where we thought that the early Taylors might have been. The results of that included ruling out the Zachary Taylor family in Orange County, Virginia. One of the beliefs from 100 years ago was that we were connected to the Zachary Taylor line. That's not true. And we could never historically figure out how it would work. And the DNA seems to prove that there's no connection there. It did confirm a connection with one of the people related to Richard Taylor, one of the families that was close to our Joseph Taylor family in Conedo Creek, in North Carolina. And one of the people we tested is very closely connected to us with DNA. Now, more recently, we're undertaking further testing with family tree DNA. And we're using some tools that have higher resolution, and we're identifying new people. And we're hoping that between the kind of results that we got from the early program and what we're doing now will yield some positive results. What you should know is that there's a fair amount of work to be done, and if you have an interest in this, you should let me know. There's my email address if you would like to jot it down if you're interested. I was going to take time to talk about these three Taylors. I'll do it just very briefly. One of the Taylors has connections back to the Conedo Creek group. His family still lives in North Carolina. I already mentioned him. There's another gentleman who lives in Marion County, South Carolina. That's by one of the racetracks, Darlington, I think it is. We don't have the family lines connected up. We're not sure how he comes in, but he's fairly closely related to us too. So that's one that needs some research. And then there's a Hodges family that's very closely related to us by DNA, at the point that there's kind of a 95 to 99% probability of having a common ancestor with them between 8 and 12 generations back. So there's a lot of work to try to figure that one out. Plenty of work for all. And it's very interesting, very exciting, but it's a new field for me to learn. And I think that's probably me taking enough time. So send me an email if you have an interest in getting involved in this.
Okay, well, it's now my turn to discuss sharing digital family histories together. If David, if you could bring up David and Sherry's and my sister, let's Janan, we'll talk briefly about this challenge and fun opportunity that we have. But Sherry, Dawn mentioned that the Sherrys have given the books to Family Search to keep in their library. Dawn, let's just talk just briefly about that. So that book, the first volume, probably the second volume, have been digitized in Family Search, correct? We need Mike, if you would. And I understand that the those books have been, at this point, are private. We're going to talk about how you can use private books, one solution. Another point that we hope to do at future times is to be able to use books that are no longer private, that are digital and options. We'll like to have Ron Taylor join us here, if you would, David, and he'll be helping us with a couple experiments here. So let me ask the Frankies, did you put the books as they were published in Family Search, in the Family Search Library?
In Salt Lake?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, and we need to talk just briefly about that. The concern that you always will have in digitizing the book is the longevity of the repository where you keep the book, so that it's available for all people to use in perpetuity. So all 3 volumes of the books of the Sherrys are now available. We're going to be using one of them with that. My sister Janan helped my father in editing a couple of books. And what were those books, Janan, that you did?
We've got the life story of Lorenzo. Oh, here we go. Of Lorenzo Snow.
Lorenzo Taylor, yes.
We have, no, Lorenzo Taylor. I'm sorry. And here's his missionary journal. He wrote a journal while the 4 years he was in the Sandwich Islands. And then there's his dictionary that he used to learn the language, because there was no MTC back then. And these are all digitized and on Family Search available to anyone.
And so those are now public, and we're going to talk about the different things that you can do with public and private books as it relates to a secondary source for the genealogy. And to do that, I've asked Ron if he can share his screen, and we're going to start by first looking at my ancestors in volume 3. Remember, it's published, and many of you maybe have it. You can do this with the book. So in this case, Ron, maybe you could just outline what we're doing here in establishing a source. So Ron went to the master source, and he's going to, in this case, we're going to be talking about Joseph Allen Taylor. And Joseph Allen Taylor, in this book, in Sherry and Dawn's book, is on pages, as I believe, 241. So let's talk about the 3 things that you can do. You can hook the reference to the person. You can hook a reference to other family events, or you can hook at the event level. Family Search hooks everything to a personal level. Family Search will do all 3 of them. So here we are at Joseph Allen Taylor, and we can go into going to add a source to him from the book. And the page, we'll add then the page number from the book, which is page 241, as I recall.
Isn't there a page range?
Yes, 241 to 247. Yes.
So we put that in the detail for the source citation.
And therefore, anyone looking at that source would be able to find out where in their book they can find that person. And you can do that from the published books that you have. Okay. So, and at some point, when the books are made public, you'll be able to actually do another link, which we can show you. The next thing I wanted to show was from this book, The Life Story of Morris Taylor. Can you flip to Morris Taylor there, if you would, Ron?
Yeah, let's pull him up first.
So we find his source, find him, Morris Harding Taylor. Okay.
So there he is.
All right. So in the interest of time, I won't connect him to the book. But let's talk about let's talk about a residence. If you go down to Legacy Family Tree has about 250 different events that you can add to a person. One of them is residence. So he lived in Hyde Park, Utah. So let's go down to Hyde Park, Utah. And there is the address of where he raised his family. And we can go into the book and we can actually see the page number from the book and connect that to him. Let's see.
First of all, what we do is we set up the clipboard.
Yep.
So there's the master source. We
Right.
select that, and then we put the detail, whatever the detail is that we want.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the detail about Hyde Park?
Yes. Mm-hmm. It's Hyde Park. Now, and since the Hyde Park residence, that's right. Yes. And since
What page?
Okay, it's page 157 and 158. So that ties the storied information which he has about that particular item. You can add, as you can see, you can add religious events, you can add job events, all kinds of personal events that are used now in genealogy. So in Family Search is called the timeline. It could be called events in various places to document a person's life. We always need to remember when we're working with the books that these are secondary sources. You always want to look at the source and verify what's there before you add it, but that these things are available. We won't take time today, but if any of you are interested, we'll be happy to share with you how you can, with Legacy Family Tree, you can actually go in and add the digital, from the digital book, the information. And with that information, you can, from clicking on that digital information, you can jump right into the book and read the source information about this particular event in the life of a person. Again, let me just reiterate, there are 3 levels of sourcing that you can pull from the books. The general level that goes to the person, which is in Family Search. You can add the a marriage or family level, which would be heritages or things about a family. And then you can add events, which are events about the person's life. Those other two you can easily add using legacy family tree.
So I just followed the master source citation for this book. And
Okay.
It goes directly to Family Search. And you can see the books right here.
Yep. There it is.
Anyway,
So,
it opens it up. It opens up directly into that book.
So if you're talking about with your children or grandchildren about the thing, have these sources, the books, or talking about the person, you can go directly to this thing and actually pull out the information or the story that's about that. I wanted to mention one other thing. Janan has done one other thing. If we could stop the sharing, if we could. Janan has done some things with stories. Stories are different than the books. Short stories can be added directly to the accounts. And Janan, do you want to take a minute and just describe what you have done there?
Well, I just noticed that my children and grandchildren only read short things. And while we've got some wonderful, wonderful long histories, none of my children or grandchildren are going to go read those. So I have just gone in and done a brief life sketch, 1-page typewritten, and for the most part, and then added those to the life sketch of our family members. So that way, if we can get our children or our grandchildren or our great-grandchildren to pop into Family Search, they just click on that life sketch. They don't have to go into memories and sort through all of they can just click on that life sketch, and then they've got immediately, a short description of that person's life. And then hopefully, they'll go into those longer histories that are there, that are written. They'll have a desire to know more. So that's just briefly what I've done.
Thank you. Thank you all for participating and sharing with us. And thank you, Ron, for quickly demonstrating. There's lots of details that we could spend the time with. Thank you, though. So with Ron, we'll just stay on the theme. Let's the last area that we're going to spend some time talking about is using the digital family history for collaboration. So David, if you can pick up Ron's picture here, and let's, I believe Nancy and I were going to join him. If Nancy's there, if you could do that. Thank you. So Ron, what are some of the thoughts that you had in sharing about these collaboration tasks?
Well, one of the ones that I've thought about since our earlier meeting today is the ability that we have to use our computer tools to find people in the system called Find a Grave. And there's other systems like it. There's Billion Graves and so forth. There's lots of systems that track families and what the tombstones are, and a lot of them have the actual obituary posted with the tombstone.
Hey, Ron,
Anyway.
could you sorry, Ron, could you move a little closer to your microphone, please?
Yeah, probably
Oh,
can.
so much better. Thank you.
Yeah, I probably only moved about 2 inches, but that's okay. So
Made a big difference.
okay, that's good. So in our database, we have about 315,000 people. So far, I've found over 36,114 people on Find a Grave. And So that becomes really valuable. You can look up any person you want in the database. And if they've got a find a grave that's already been identified, that find a grave number is already there. And you just click on it and it goes directly to the find a grave system and shows the tombstone.
They also, don't they add if family connections and so forth, that you can actually add additional information about the family, right?
Very much so. Find a grave, for the most part, is another pedigree tree that is totally linked between people if people put it in. It's not automatic. You have to go in and make the links. But it's all there, and a great system, especially if you're looking for all the tombstones in a certain cemetery. You can easily pull a list of everybody that's buried in a certain cemetery with legacy, and then with Find a Grave, it'll tell you exactly where each tombstone is.
That's wonderful. Nancy, did you have a question for Ron?
Well,
While you're thinking, I have one.
Okay,
I
go
was
ahead.
thinking, Legacy has the ability to provide all kinds of lists and things that would help for family reunions and things like that, right, Ron?
Correct. Because it's a real database, unlike some of the other programs that have been out for a long time, you can literally go in and extract data from the database in multiple ways. So for example, this last week, I've been trying to track the difference between people that have a Find a Grave and the people that still need one. It's really easy to generate a list of everybody that we know has died that do not have a Find a Grave in their record. And there's their list. Makes it really easy to track the people that still need to be found.
A little plug for the slicers. If you're a slicer for your cousins and things like that, you have access to information that you can build lists about wedding anniversaries.
Yep.
Have your Christmas mailing list.
Yeah.
Other contact information about
Yeah,
the family, so you don't have to have multiple files dealing with your cousins, right?
That reminds me, in Legacy, they used to have an icon that looked like a Rolodex, but the Rolodex Corporation said, you can't use our icon. So now they have just a little house with a cell phone. But anyway, you can store all of your phone contact and postal mail and email and web pages and everything else all in Legacy for anybody. So you can easily make a list of all of your people that have an email address, for example.
Yeah. And the software that we use, of course, is free, or for use on the line, the Taylor Family Association gets a 25% discount as members.
Yeah.
And what's the discount code?
Oh, the discount code is Taylor 14. All lowercase on the Taylors.
And that can be found on the website as well.
Sure. Okay, little tips there. Okay, Nancy, did you have a question?
Yeah, we'd like to know, Ron has built a really comprehensive spreadsheet he calls the Death Index. We would like to know if he can share that publicly so that anyone can see that. It keeps track of everybody in the database who has already passed, with all the dates and information you could ever ask for.
Yeah, let me put it on screen here.
We were visiting with Family Search a few weeks back, and they were absolutely dumbfounded at the work that Ron has done while he's searching for it.
There it is.
He's contributed about 40,000 names of persons who are deceased that were shown as living in the database that's maintained by Family Search. And they were absolutely dumbfounded that he was able to do that. So you get a couple, 3 gold stars for that, Ron.
Yeah, This is the actual death index.
You need to share your screen if you could.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Welcome, Mike Deal.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mike, glad to have you.
Yeah, he must have landed in Washington, DC.
Just got here, so we're good to be here.
Okay, can you tell us what we're looking at, Ron?
Yeah, on the first column is the RIN number in the database. That RIN means record identification number. Every person in the database has their own RIN. And then the second column is their full name. Third column is called tag 3. That represents people that have a find a grave or have a family search ID number.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fourth column, fifth column is their death date.
Can
And-
you speak up, please?
Yeah, the death index is only for the people that have died since January 1st of 2000. We don't track the ones before that, but we have them all in the database. Maybe we'll expand the death index later. But anyway, there's the next column shows the relationship back to Joseph Taylor and Nancy. And then the next column shows their find a grave number. And the last column shows it has an X in it like that one right there, if we don't have a find a grave. And that X is used to color the field. Orange means that we don't have a find a grave.
So this is really exciting. I hope everyone understands that there's a lot of information that we can provide, and we for you, for your family, as you're doing research on your own cousins. At the same time, we're continuing to examine the records to see what is happening with the family lines using the data. One other thing before we open it up for discussion, Ron, let's talk about the 1950 census.
Okay.
One of the things that we have to do is we have to find out who was alive
Correct.
in 1950.
There's built-in tools in Legacy that will allow you to create a search list for all the people that should be on that census. So it makes it really simple to use.
And they want us to, they've used new technologies. They've to transcribe the handwritten to digital, and they want us to verify it, but we need to know who we're looking for. So that is another source that can be used to help us find our people. I'm sure you'd be happy if that somebody wants to know, they call in and ask.
There's a lot of people that are supposed to be on that census from our Taylor family.
Yes, what you say?
I checked on it just this morning. There was 89,000 people that are probably on the 1950 census.
That we have in the database.
That we have.
Yeah, okay.
So it's going to take a little while.
A fun project for our family members to be involved with. Well,
right.
I think we've run out of time. We need to open it up to share with members if they have questions and so forth. So
I have a comment about the database. If you're
Sure.
using Legacy Family Tree, you need to make sure you have the new update in order to use the 1950 census tools.
Oh, yes. Yep.
New
okay.
update just came out.
Yeah, make sure you're on the latest version anyway. And you want to be on the version 9. They have version 10 out in beta, but it's not released to the public yet.
So watch for that. Okay,
You want legacy version 9, 001 or 414. That's the latest version.
and they should automatically notify you if you have this stuff. All right, David, let's open the forum and see if people have questions or comments that they would like to make. We need to have instructions on how to do it.
Great. Yeah. So let's see. I'm going to remove these spotlights. So now we're going to have, if you have any questions or comments about any of the discussions, we'd love to hear those. You can do that in a number of different ways. Of course, most of you are familiar with the chat feature because I've seen some comments throughout the presentations. But again, you can find that, move your mouse to the bottom center of your screen and click on chat and type in a message to ask a question. You can also, down near the bottom of your screen, there is a button that says reactions. It has like a little face. So if you click on that, and then there's another button that says raise hand. And Nancy there is raising her hand right now. And so we'll be able to see that. So that's another way you can do that. But if we don't catch you raising your hand, because we do have 35 people or so on right now, then just unmute and find an opportune moment to jump in and ask your question. So again, your mute button is on the bottom left. You can also just push and hold the space bar down while you talk, like a walkie-talkie, while you're talking. And then when you release your space bar, it goes back to muted. So that's another way you can do that. So any questions or comments? And then I think after this, we're gonna just have a kind of our open forum for any kind of comments. Before we do that, we'll wanna have last year we did a family photo, which is always a great part of any family reunion. But since we're all virtual, the best we can do is a screen grab. But we'll wait for another couple of minutes before we do that.
Okay.
This is the dessert that Roger talked about.
That's right.
And I don't know, for people who
Thank you
weren't
for
following
sharing.
for people who weren't following the chat, I just want to call out Deborah Tangren, who has offered to help out being an editor. I can't express how delighted we are to have you help out with that. And again, if anybody else has any interest, either as being one of the, I guess, officers of the organization, or any volunteering to
Part of
help
the
out with
staff.
any of the projects that has been discussed, oh, we'd love to have your help.
Did I see the word, did I hear the word editor?
Yes, you did.
Eileen.
Okay, now I gotta find that.
But what was her name again, David?
Deborah, why don't you go off mute and introduce yourself if you're all right.
There she is, right there.
I don't know. Okay.
Oh, we can't hear you. Yeah, you're not on mute anymore, but we're not hearing any sound.
Oh, that's too bad.
Oh, here, wow, let's see.
Type it in the chat
Is
box.
it Deborah Tangren?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. There she
I
is.
found it. Woohoo.
Great.
Okay, now I gotta figure out how to email you.
Okay. Thank you, Deborah. So
You
I
should
was
hear from
interested-
me either today or tomorrow.
okay.
Tangren, Tangren.
Yep. Okay.
We have
All guys
all
got
of-
that?
Gordon, we have all of the contact information in the spreadsheet from Mike.
Yes, that's all there.
That's great.
Okay, anybody else have something they'd like to share or visit, question about? I would be interested how many of you have copies of the books that you can actually use the books as a resource. Have you thought about that idea?
I've got quite a few books. I've got all of Sherry's books. I've also got one. I don't know who's here from Tennessee, but I have that book that, but it's in California. Anyway, it's got all of those court records for Tennessee deeds and things like that to look up. And so that's something I need to really get
Again,
on.
another piece of connection going
Yes.
into
Oh,
the,
that's a wonderful job.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, Mary Ann Taylor asks if she could get a copy of the books. How should she get a copy of the books?
Sherry, can you tell her how we could do that?
Okay, of course, volume 1 is gone, but you can get volume 2 and volume 3 for $25 each. And you can mail us a check and we'll send them right out to you. And our address is 6147 South 2250 East, Ogden, Utah, 84403. Sherry and Dawn Frankie.
And that's almost always page 9 on the Taylor newsletter.
Okay.
Just to double check, Gordon, on the chat, was that 6147? 6147?
6147.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
2250 East. Ogden,
Thank you.
Utah. Okay.
All right. Other questions that may have? Yes. I hope what we chose to present was of some use to each of you, some new ideas.
Mary Ann Taylor made a suggestion.
Yes.
Having a Zoom get together to visit and get to know each other once a month or every 2 or 3 months, show pictures, stuff you inherited.
Okay, that's
That's
something
something we can work on.
we ought to also mention that the Taylor Association meetings every Saturday from 8 till 9 Utah time is a great idea. If you would like to join that meeting or have something that you would like to share with the TFA staff, those meetings are open. And so you're certainly welcome to join us if you have, and if you even have a question about something about the Taylors that you'd like to talk about. Yeah. But
So what was
let's
it,
consider, put that
Sher-
on the agenda, Nancy.
For the, okay, yeah, I'll put that. Sherry, how much do you want? You have the 2 books and she wants to buy both of them. How much do she need to send you?
$50.
$50.
And they used to be double that.
Yes.
A special
paid-
deal for the virtual. No,
I
she's
paid
had it
that.
for some time. Okay.
Close up.
Roger, are we ready for the family picture?
I
Well,
think so. If I,
Just while we're doing
Go ahead,
that,
Gordon.
Holly raised her hand. She had something she wanted to
Oh.
ask.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yes. Sorry, I was just wondering, I am a descendant of John Taylor, so son of William and Elizabeth. And I was just curious if there's any other ones here in the reunion that are also descendants of John Taylor.
That's me.
There's a group of them.
David is,
David,
Elma,
John and
Awesome.
Eleanor. Yep.
all of John.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So John went from Texas to Utah to Montana, and then he returned to Utah, but he left a large family in Montana, and I guess you came from up Montana up to Canada.
Canada, that's right, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's great.
Southern Alberta.
Yeah, nice to
Okay.
meet you, Holly.
Yeah, you too.
There's a whole group of Bennetts and Hardings in Canada that are related to us as well.
Okay,
Different line, some of the different lines but spouses of the Taylors are all related to the Taylors.
Awesome. Thank you.
So have you been involved in genealogy for quite a bit of time?
My mother was, but she lots. So she's the descendant on my mom's side, but she passed away in 2008. So I've inherited all of her genealogy books, which are numerous, and I'm kind of getting into it. I really enjoy it and have lots to learn yet still though.
Well, perhaps we can enlist you as a slicer, and we will, when you're a slicer, we send you what we have on your slice.
Cool.
And so that you can just integrate back and forth, just circular. And you can help us verify, validate, and watch Family Search.
Sounds interesting.
Okay. You got that, Ron?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And by the way, I'm also from John Taylor.
Yeah. Another cousin, Ron.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, any others that have a question? We're getting ready to.
Yeah, if I could just jump in, I have some bad news.
What?
I am, because of my location, I am running off of my battery, and I am hosting this meeting. And we have maybe 10 minutes left before the meeting is going to end. So let's get the family photo, and then people can chat and ask questions or whatever else. And then if it ends abruptly, that's because my battery died, and I'm not anywhere near an outlet. Plus, I've got another phone call in about 15 minutes with my son who is serving a mission in Mexico. So.
Get on the
Sounds
phone
good.
with you. How's that?
Oh,
All right,
okay.
so what we'd like to do,
Oh.
it looks like people are already doing it. So if we could have everybody turn on their video camera and then
Okay.
just sit in front
Yeah, I
of your
just have to get
camera.
down.
Well, whenever
Yeah,
you're
and if
gonna
there's
do the
multiple
photo,
of you, if you can kind of gather around your computer, just
There
like,
we go.
there you go, it's like Roy's doing. Thank you. What I'm gonna do is
you
I'm
know,
gonna do a
I'm
couple
down,
of
I may
screen
not be able to
captures.
get up.
Janan is upside down, but that might work. There we go. All right, we were gonna grab this, and then I gotta switch. Covers a couple of pages, so I've got to grab this. Let's see, did I get that?
Motley Crew.
Yeah.
Nope. Hold on a second. Yep, that worked great. So I'm gonna save that one. And then move to the next page.
David, did you get all 35?
No, I've only got the first page, and I'm moving to the next page. Okay, and did that work? No, I want full screen. Okay. I think we got everybody. We will put that on the website. Okay.
Put it so that everyone can see everybody. Maybe I don't have the right.
I have a little bar at the top that I can.
Oh, there we
I can
go.
see.
Yeah, if you go into the top right corner where you see view, you can change it from the speaker to gallery.
And that I just did that now, so I
Yep,
can.
and then you'll see, it depends on your screen size, but
fun.
about 30 people at a time. Yeah. Well, here we go.
Wow.
David, can we get the ones that are not clearly identified, like down at the bottom, we got MD, but I don't know who that is.
That's Mike Deal. But yeah, if maybe introduce yourself if you've got we've got R. Greg. You want to introduce yourself so we can get to know you and see who's joined?
You have to be in it.
That's Roy, my husband.
Oh, okay. That
Yeah,
makes
and he
sense.
doesn't have a camera, so he couldn't be on there.
Okay.
Quick hello, Mona Ward has never met her first cousin Phyllis Beck, who I believe is right in there. And she just, Mom, can you wave? Wave. I can't wave. Hold it. Yeah. Hi, Phyllis.
Oh.
Oh, and Deborah. And them too. So thank you for letting us do that.
Somebody needs to unmute.
Oh, Phyllis is with Deborah. That's great. And Cheryl, you said you guys are staying in Idaho Falls right now?
Yeah, we're road tripping. We broke my mom out of a quarantine. So she could, and we're here with my sister Sandy. She went up and saw her sister. And she was 50 and her half sister, who's also a tailor, and in her 90s, a half sister. So yeah, it was kind of a family trip, as you know, to see her sister for the last time. So it was great to see you all. Thank you so much for all that you do.
We'll look forward to having you as a new editor.
Yes.
Oh, not you, the other one.
Thanks so much for putting this on.
Well, it's impossible with the millions of people that are really connected to the Taylors. Every place I've gone, I always meet a cousin. It's wonderful around the world. They said by 1909 there were descendants of these Taylors in all 48 states. That was in 1909. So you might just look next door, and take your pedigree chart and run a connection.
So very true.
And another little detail, Mike, I don't know if you probably don't have the numbers in front of you. Maybe you've got them, Roger or Gordon. Just the number of people who registered this time. And it is unfortunate we had some trouble people joining, but we'll send an email out to everybody again with the link so they can watch it after it's posted to the website, so they can still participate in that way at least. But happy to see so many people. We've got our seasoned veterans, our octogenarians and nonagenarians, it sounds like. We've got some younger folks. Ethan, just by judging by your face, you might be the youngest person on the call today. Exciting to see some younger blood to keep the tradition going here.
I think the average age was in between 50 and 65 of the 50 people that were on the.
Well, that's good, because some of us that are in our high 80s have to worry about, okay, I'm so glad to have Deborah willing to get into this.
Okay. So Ethan, where are you from?
Right now, I'm actually in Logan. I'm at Utah State.
Okay.
Oh.
I grew up in Hyde Park. I suppose you know where that is.
Yeah, it's just south of.
Just north of Logan.
Oh, well, yeah, north. Yeah.
I pictured it south.
What are you studying?
Right now, I'm doing chemistry.
Good. 1961 graduate.
From Utah State,
Yeah,
1992 graduate.
Bunch of Aggies on, huh?
Yep.
At least it's the right. At least they've got the right school colors.
I see a Bruce Sudweeks. Where does he live?
Unmute, Bruce.
Right. I'm in Santa Cruz, California.
Network bandwidth is
We're all
low.
we're all originally from California as well.
Yours?
Arizona.
What's that?
In Orange County, the Bay Area, and
It
San
came on when
Diego.
Sedgwick was on, said low bandwidth, so I don't know what that means, all of us are,
Probably
thought
me.
half of
I have really
California moved back to
limited,
Utah.
internet.
Bruce, I sent you a friend request years ago, but you've never accepted me as your friend on Facebook.
Oh,
That
I'm a
hurts.
bad boy. I guess I'll go snoop around and see if I can dig that up.
All righty.
Roger, we didn't mention the Facebook page. You maybe ought to mention that to everybody.
It's a good Facebook page, and I run that Facebook page. I do a lot of Facebook. During this meeting, I've sent a lot of you people friend requests. But go into the Joseph Taylor Senior Facebook page and check it out. And be glad to have any help, any suggestions, any posts that you'd like to make. They are welcome. Thank you, Bruce. You and I are now friends. No, I pushed the wrong button. We're trying to be friends.
Hey, friendship is
I'll
hard.
get you that.
Okay.
Ron Taylor, I'm glad you're on here. You're Durfee Lion. So it says Suzanne Taylor on your thing. You gotta push the unmute.
Yes, it does. It's well, my great granddad was Alan Taylor, son of William.
Loa. Down that country.
Yep, yeah, born and raised in, they were born and raised, my parents were born and raised in Loa.
It's interesting to write up the reasons people moved to various countries. I believe Alan moved to Loa from up in Preston, Idaho, as a result of the polygamy issue, as I recall. There was he moved south.
So he's called on the cotton.
Which Alan are you talking about? You talking about Alan Senior?
Mm-hmm.
No, well, I don't think that's correct. I think Alan first had a home in Caseville when they arrived here from Nauvoo. But
that was first, yeah.
Asked to move to St. George to help with the saints down there, and then
the cotton mission.
After he finished with that, he moved over into Loa,
Mm.
and that's where he's buried.
I come through Alan Taylor also.
All right, Vern.
And that's who I come through too.
Good, Mike.
That's a tough bunch, I'll tell you, those Alan Taylors.
Yep.
I understand that Alan Senior, I don't know that he's actually had senior or junior, but it's the only way to distinguish between the father and the son. But Alan Senior, I understand he was a good friend with Willard Richards. Does anybody know that for sure?
I think we died.
We're still good, Roger. We're still on.
We're still good, yeah.
Yeah, believe it or not, there's over 400 Alan Taylors in the database.
I'm not surprised, but I'm only concerned right now with one of them.
Yeah.
Who's my great granddad?
Now, is he related to the Alan Taylor who was in New Harmony?
I think. Yes, I think he started in New Harmony. Yes.
Yeah, had 4 wives.
But moved over into Washington County.
Right.
Washington. And then, like I said, when they finished up down there, I'm not sure why he chose to move over into the Loa and Bicknell area in Wayne County, but that's where they moved.
He had a lot of livestock, and there was no feed, there was no water down in St. George, down in Dixie, so we had to move up to higher ground. Is what I was told.
That would make sense. By the way, that is Suzanne. My name.
Hello, Suzanne.
My name is Ron. Just so you know, I'm not Suzanne.
That makes us happy to know.
The boy named Sue, is that what it is?
Yes.
Yes, Deborah, what can we do for you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, it worked then. Shoot, I'm trying to remember what I was gonna say.
What is your email address?
Oh, I wrote
It's
it
in
in the
there.
text.
Yeah,
But-
I have it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I need that.
Okay. So I'm with Beth Taylor Beck here at her house in Nampa, and Phyllis Harris, who's my mother, and my aunt Carrie. We're all here in Nampa right now, but my mother lives in Logan and I live down in Saratoga Springs, Utah.
Oh, I lived in
that's where-
Provo for 20 years. So I remember how that area grew tremendously.
Yes. It's grown a lot just in the last, I don't know.
Couple
I've been
years,
in
5
Utah
years.
about 8 years and it has grown a lot in 8 years.
Oh, yes.
We have a number of Taylor descendants in Saratoga.
Oh,
You just need to ask the Neproskys or Jesus Taylor. There's half a dozen others that are related to other of Joseph and Nancy's children that didn't come through William that live over there. A whole different family line that came out of California that moved up to Saratoga.
There's also,
that's where I came from too.
there's also Tiana Cowden out in Saratoga.
Yes, the Cowdens out in Saratoga is one of the lines that I was speaking about. Came out of California, but it's a different, completely different line than William Taylor.
I'll have to keep my eyes out.
Okay.